Greetings, everybody. I'm Salvador Cordova. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. This is going to be an informal fellowship time. I don't know how many people will be able to join the panel. If it's just me, this stream might last not much more than half an hour. I've invited about 10 people, but there's a lot going on tonight. Some people responded, one person responded back that they have also an open mic live stream on their channel, and plus there's other things going on other channels. So I'm grateful for all of you who attended the talk of Sal Faces His Critics. Hit me with your best shot. That was, I had no idea how that was going to turn out. And I thought that was a very productive exchange of information. And so, oh my goodness, our Submariner is here. Hey, pigs can fly, and Emery. So I wanted to follow through with my promise. I actually probably wouldn't have had this stream if I didn't suggest we just hang out. Since I'm the one that suggested, I would have felt bad if we didn't at least try to get it started. So there are 3 slots left for those that I sent an email. Patrick Alexander, you're welcome to come. This could be a short stream. I just call it like Miller time. There was kind of tradition at work they call the happy hour, and just relax and just speak on any matter on your mind. Emery, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, I can barely hear you, Emery.
Sorry, let me move my mic so it's a little closer. How's that?
Oh, much better.
All right, awesome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Oh man, what a nice voice. You could be a radio announcer.
I've heard that so many times I can't even tell you.
Serious? Yeah.
I did have one thing I wanted to talk about because it was from that last stream that you had just a few minutes ago, when Dr. Dan was saying that there seems to be this stigma against peer review, and he thinks that we're thinking it's a conspiracy. I'm like, well, I mean, considering the fact that evolution and abiogenesis are actually unfalsifiable claims, and then that's the exact same argument that's used to say that we can't count ID as a potential candidate, I would say that yeah, there's definitely some kind of a stigma here, but it's not coming from us. It's coming from the peer review, the people that are doing the peer review process. Actually, it's just my perspective.
Well, I think there's this, having submitted to evolutionary journals and being rejected, and then contrasting it with the work that I do for protein journals and chemistry journals and math journals. I can definitely feel there's a difference, because we put so much effort in the evolutionary stuff. Is critical, but it was definitely fair game. And the editors told us we were correct in our conclusions, but they gave other reasons for not publishing. Specifically, the paper in question was on nylon-eating bacteria, and I'm just like, so why don't you publish this? Because people are still citing the work we were critical of. It was Ono's 1984 paper on nylon-eating bacteria, and it was wrong. And people are still citing it in peer-reviewed literature as fact. I said, that's a problem. If it's not going to be us, it was bad enough for us personally, me and Dr. Sanford, that our paper got rejected. But I said, on a larger scale, I have a problem with the fact that it's like no one going to come forward and just point this out.
Yeah.
So
isn't that was that about where the ability to process nylon, that was actually from like a prior gene that was already inserted into the genome like forever ago?
Okay, so this was the theory that nylon got invented sometime around 1935, and
right.
And the idea is that, well, that's man-made. There's no way an enzyme would digest it, so it had to be evolved. Well, our paper broke a little bit of new ground, but there are actually some papers that suggested this, that Maybe an enzyme could have degraded it even before nylon got invented. And some people say, no, that's absurd. You don't get it. I'm just like, so does that mean a rock can't break a car window until a car window, it didn't have the inherent capability of breaking it until the car window exists? I'm just like, no, it had that capability. It only got realized when the car got invented. And so I was saying that nylon eating bacteria had that capability before nylon got invented. It just seemed that, it seemed a little far-fetched to suggest that. But then we actually looked at the chemistry. The amide bonds are very similar to the peptide bonds in a protein. And so any amidase or peptidase or even a beta-lactamase can break it apart. But we also found out that what was it? Now I'm embarrassed because I wrote this in the paper and I've since forgotten it. There is a trypsin. Mammalian trypsin can break it apart. So these are substances in pigs and humans, and there's no way that we evolved it right after 1935 just so we could eat nylon. In the evolution, so we got a whole list of reasons why we got rejected, and so I'm willing to accept, Dr. Dan, that they're doing this in good faith, but there's still politics involved.
Yeah.
And someone,
there's definitely a bias.
CRISPR-Cas gave a more nuanced thing. He said, if you criticize someone of the National Academy of Sciences, probably some editors would not feel very comfortable publishing your paper. Because
the reason why I brought that up, though, is because it wasn't on this stream. It was on a prior stream, I want to say, at Nephilim Freeze channel. They were discussing something about, I want to say it was in the Bible. I forgot exactly what was being discussed, but I remember there was a guy there. I think his name was Andrew. He was talking. The same young guy that you had on the last stream there, Andrew, the rational empiricist. He was at the other stream, and him and the other guy I was talking to, I can't remember the other guy's name, unfortunately, but they were going back and forth about how ID is just a conjecture. There's no way that it can be proven, and therefore it can't be counted as science. I'm like, well, how can you say that about evolution of abiogenesis? Because they're the exact same thing that you're talking about. And if that's the case, if that's your only argument against ID, then you have no argument. It's literally just a bias against it because you don't want to think that there's a possibility of a God existing. Just think about that. So,
and to be, I have a nuanced view. I actually don't think ID is science, and I'll get flack for saying that. I don't argue that it is. I say the question.
I don't think it is either. I'm not saying. I'm not arguing that it's science. I'm going to
say I don't think abiogenesis is science, and neither do I think evolutionary theory is science.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. Because the thing is, it's unprovable. It's something we can never go back and verify. We'd have to get a time machine even to do something like that, if that's even possible, right? And not to mention that it'd have to be some crazy standards just to even verify something like that in the first place. So,
you see, exactly. See, it's very easy to say, oxygen and hydrogen can combine to make water in the past because we could duplicate it now. I have no problem with that. But some of these biomolecules, I'm just like, good luck trying to replicate that experiment for all the reasons James Tours outlined. By the way, I think by and large, the discussion this evening was very productive for me. And
I thought they all had a really good discussion there. Like I said, that was my only contention with what he said. I was like, well, that was interesting.
So I may come across that way, and I'll accept that charge because I've certainly been kind of upset at our treatment. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a conspiracy, just maybe just an inherent prejudice. You don't have to, conspiracy is when you talk to each other and say, we're going to get this guy. An inherent prejudice is like anything critical, we're just going to de-emphasize. We want something new and spectacular that's going to, make our field look better.
Well, I love the videos you were putting out on that last stream that you did where, last night about the topoisomerase and the other proteins that were in, were working together in sequence.
Like the helicase and the potassium ion channel.
Well, I mean, think about it because it, like I said, it requires forethought for those to even function in the first place, right? Because first of all, there's that law, right, where the double helix strand is already woven in such a way that once it starts to break anything, I'm sorry, starts to collect, it's going to start to weave in and out of itself, right? And otherwise, it's going to at one point just have so much tension it can't even move, right? I forget the name of
Right.
that law where it does that, but I mean that requires for a designer to know about that ahead of time, right? For the topoisomerase even to exist
Yeah.
and do its job. And there's multiple versions of the topoisomerase that you said have talked about. There's the one that does both strands. There's the one that does the single strand, and then swaps it over to the other side. Like that was really interesting to see.
We
And
learned
I
this
mean,
really fast, by the way, and that's a good
yeah,
insight. The designer would have to know the biophysical properties of DNA to know that it would tangle when it's
right.
being
Well, I mean,
separated.
that's a law of physics if you think about it that way, because of the way that operates. Um, and I mean, I'm not sure I could peg exactly which law it would be going along with, but at the same time, it's showing forethought and knowledge about the universe and how it operates before we even get to life, obviously. So
Yeah. And like what Dr. Dan was saying, that he's not there, and I accept that. And I'm not going to, I get in trouble when I try to psychoanalyze people. I will do it occasionally, but it's like, well, all we could do is be responsible for ourselves. And Doctor, I appreciate the fact he said, I'm right with you there, but at this point, I just can't. He said he acknowledges the complexity, but beyond that, he can't go. And he said you haven't tied up all the loose ends, and that's a fair point. But I told him from my perspective, and a lot of us on our side, it really is just too hard to believe this could happen by itself. It's
yeah, that's one of the things that was leading me away from atheism in the first place. Like when I was agnostic, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, how did this ever come about? Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. Thinking about the proteins and all the different complex, things that have to be happening. Go ahead. Sorry, I kind of cut there.
I was about to say that's why I just think I'm just going to talk about complexity. I'm going to try to avoid personal drama, and it's not surprising some people start to have thoughts of God when they fall in love and they have children, and they see that the child. I mean, mothers have told me, they said all doubt about God just disappeared when they saw their first child. They said something had made this possible. And I've heard that from some parents. There's another thought that slipped my mind. So, now I remember it. The tone of my channel, and also apologetics in general, a lot of apologetics is very polemic, understandably.
Yeah.
It's like, we study this so we can argue. And I realized what made the apologetics group we formed privately, that just happened between friends, and then more people started joining from the church. And I said, I can't believe we're holding together. And I said, the reason it holds together is that we actually study evidence and reasons for the Christian faith. We study creation science, archaeology, testimony, some biblical difficulties, and presuppositional apologetics, but especially the evidential side. We study these things because it helps our relationship with God. We study these things because it helps us, it motivates us to worship the designer. And when I was giving the talk yesterday, I said, this isn't about trying to beat down evolutionists and abiogenesis proponents. This is about us feeling the wonder and awe of our creator. And I tell you, after that, even giving the talk yesterday, people were saying, wow, this is really great. This is so awesome. I said, yeah. That was infectious even to me. And I was like, yeah, this is it. It makes us want to worship the Lord. And my heart was lifted up looking at what would ordinarily be very dry material. And I said, yeah, this is dry material, but think about what it means. It points to the creator. I felt very much at peace last night because there's some, as you all know, there's some tough things going down. So that's what I wanted to say. This channel for apologetics isn't about argumentation. Right. It's about building relationships with our creator.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly have difficulty being humble whenever I'm speaking to some atheists, but I always pray that the Lord gives me patience and humility and the ability to just work through those emotions so that I can just get to the point of the matter and just focus on glorifying God in the situation. But no,
I don't think my
agree.
sanity could last debating some of, some personalities there. I ban them from the channel, and I
Right.
try to avoid even mentioning their identities here because they're just so toxic. I don't have problems with someone like Dr. Dan. I don't know where he is on the religious scale. I presume he's an agnostic or something. I'm not going to.
Probably. I would assume so.
Um,
I mean, the thing is, a lot of the scientists I've spoken to were already leaning towards, like atheism. And that was one of the things that kind of made me wonder if maybe, anything in religion was true as an agnostic. But the more that I delved into what they knew and try to get the answers that I was seeking, the more I realized that they didn't have the answers. They were just kind of doing this based off a biased assumption. And that's why that's the reason why I told you about that Dr. Ling that says she was part of the experiment for the Richard Lenski experiment on E. coli. Because I asked her, "What's your best evidence for evolution? You're the one that's telling me this is a true, a fact here." And I was agnostic at the time, but I acted as if I was a Christian just to mess with her. And it was
I
pretty
didn't
funny.
know that was. I didn't know that
Yeah.
was at that point in your life. And then go ahead, finish out the story. Now this is interesting.
Well, so what I found out about was that so she sent me a link to the old paper from 1995 about Richard Lenski's experiment on E. coli, and what it said essentially is that the bacterium had lost functionality for its flagellum, but had of course gained the ability for it to digest citrate. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, And then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a second, something's weird about this. So it lost the ability for it to move around, right? Because the flagellum is its outboard motor. So that's really important to lose that, right? Like if think about if this was out in, like a live environment, right? Because this of course is inside of a lab. If this is in a live environment, how long is that going to last? Like, how many generations is it going to continue to maintain like that before it just dies off, right?
Right.
And then I went and found some future papers regarding that same experiment, and there was one from I think it was 2010, I think it was, and it talked about how whenever they take a look at the genome, and they saw that there was a break in the genome, and so in other words, the gene that was required for the
Oh, we got cut off. Emma, are you still here with
that
us?
allowed.
Okay, go on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You
You cut out really bad.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that you heard. I'll just go back to that part there. So what I understand happened is that there was a break in the gene that allows functionality for the flagellum, right? And so the thing is, the flagellum that gene actually also includes other genes that are within it, and that's what Dr. Behe was talking about when he said there was a breaking of genes in the genome just for things to change in the first place. So essentially, you have to break something just to be able to make a change like that at any given point. And the worst thing about it is that that's kind of as beneficial only because it propagates the genes temporarily faster than the other generations prior. So it's just based on the environment. And obviously, if this was like outside of citrus at that point in time, they would have all died almost instantaneously. So,
and that had influence. Did that have influence on in your journey to the Christian faith? That whole
definitely, yeah. Well, that's one of the
wow.
things that had started causing me to question what I believed in the first place, because that's actually before that event occurred with my wife and I, whenever she had the demon possession. And so, like I said, I was still against Christianity, but at the same time, I was like, there might be something out there. I don't know. And so I was still going back and forth, about it. And but I just, to me, that was like, well, if they don't have hard evidence that this can even happen, and as far as evolution is concerned, then what the heck is what's the deal here? Why do they keep making it seem like it's a fact of reality when it's not? I hated that people were trying to propagate something that's not true, and that's what pushed me even further against atheism at the time. And again, I was leaning towards atheism before that, so it was just kind of like a small progression of steps that led me to that point. And then of course, when that event took place with my wife, all bets were off. Everything just kind of came full circle, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I needed.
And
So
I've got, before Emery can't stay long, and
sorry about that.
what you just said sparked a question that I wanted to pose to Emery and other people in general. So you had an incidence of praying for someone, for your wife for the demon to be exorcised. So I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Emery. So let me go first. I'm undecided on this whole thing about secessionism. I tend to lean that a lot of gifts are not in operation, like tongues and etc. Right. But does that mean that demons have ceased? Has there been a cessation of demon possession? Because if there's not been a cessation of demon possession, maybe it went down, and I'm willing to grant that. That means it's still really important to pray for the miracle that demon is exorcised. I'm just
okay. First of all, let me kind of clarify something. I don't have to leave necessarily. I'm actually, it's kind of dependent on whether I end up needing to take a call. So like I know it's late at night, but I may end up needing to take a call from overseas. So if that happens, I'll have to drop. But if not, I'll be here for a while.
Great.
So that's point one. Point two, Sal, I think you may slightly be mixing metaphors here. And the reason I say that is like cessation. I don't think most cessationists would argue that demon possession and praying to get a demon out of a person necessarily is tied to things like tongues and healings.
okay.
Right.
Now, there may be some people who argue that, but that's not usually what I've heard. Usually what I hear when I'm hearing cessationism is I'm hearing like the laying on of hands miracles, miraculous healings, miraculous speaking in tongues and so on. And I don't want to get too far into that. I don't want to take this stream like down that rabbit hole because there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down there. But like to me, demon possession's always been a thing. Like Satan has not stopped fighting. He's still baring his teeth and throwing his darts. He's not going to stop. Right. It went down significantly in the West because of the influence of cultural Christianity. People weren't as apt to be involved in that sort of stuff. But as cultural Christianity completely rots away in the U.S. and for other Western countries, I expect it to go up significantly.
And it actually has been. I've been monitoring just in passing the news reports, and all of them are saying there's been an increase in requests for exorcisms. And what really caught my eye was that the satanic churches now are offering lots of exorcism, and I just sort of laughed. They're willing to do exorcism rituals. Before I forget, Godzilla Freak, greetings. Thanks for joining.
Hello. I got the invitation, so I decided I would join.
The microphone's just a little quiet. I don't know if there's a way I could boost it for you.
Oh, is it? Maybe I could just go closer like this?
I can hear you.
That helped.
It's good.
Yeah, it sounds
now
good.
It's good.
All right, yeah, I'll just go closer to the mic.
Okay.
So thank you for joining the chats. So many of my shows, and I see you, it's always heartening. So I just want to extend my personal gratitude that you've been a part of so many of my shows.
I'd like to thank you because your shows are really great, and I have a lot of fun watching them.
I'm going to try to make this fun. It's a Christian channel, but I don't want to be preachy. Maybe that's because I've had a hard time with preachers anyway. So I'm sorry to just say that. But I want people to enjoy their time here and be blessed. And, we can talk about all sorts of fun topics too. So thanks for coming. Just whatever you guys want to say anything on your mind, you can. If LPP comes, I know that this show will continue for a very long time.
Oh yeah, if John shows up, this show will run until tomorrow night.
Yeah. I did
Yeah,
invite him.
I mean,
Just for the record, I invited him partly so I could have
He
a little
has
time with my mother.
been-
Otherwise, I'll have to shut the stream down if the conversation doesn't kind of self-start without me.
right. No, John. I don't know. John might be moving this week, so he may or may not be around because he hasn't been real active this week. So I just kind of want to go back to the peer review comment. Like I did not watch your interactions with I don't know who all showed up. I was writing a paper.
Good on you.
it was David P. Neff and Dr. Dan and who else? I forgot the
The
other
walking
two. Was it
fish,
Rational empiricist?
and yeah.
Yeah.
So these are all the
Rational empiricist.
evolutionary biology guys.
Yeah. Now the
Well, I
only-
mean,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Rational empiricist is only 17 years old. He's not even out of high school yet. So,
Well, it was good that Dr. Dan was, he wasn't calling out too many technical errors on my part. He said that, I showed him an old diagram of the evolution of man. He said, that's so archaic. And I said, point taken. And I'm going to revise that. I knew when I got it, I'm just like, I just can't find another one. And so, I did say I'm soliciting help, and I'm realizing it's going to be very hard to get the diagram, but I actually don't need it. He gave me an idea. So in general, the discussion went very well. He didn't find any technical errors in what I had, but he said, I just can't. This is where I draw the line, where I would invoke supernatural, and he wouldn't. So I mean, if you're at all interested, you could see the interchange. I viewed it as an editorial session, and I said so. I want to feel comfortable to be able to say I can give this to a biology student, and I could say, okay, this is where you can go. This is what might be controversial, and I can write it in that format. That would be something I think that a biology professor would say, yeah, I definitely disagree with the final conclusion that Sal came up with, but everything leading up to that describing the complexity of the system is accurate. And then also Dr. Dan affirmed that he believes major protein families have independent origins. And he actually said on my channel in the side chat while he was also appearing, he said, I like the term protein orchard.
We're making progress.
Celebrate the small steps.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, I like the James Tour discussions because I used to watch his videos long before he ever did this series, that he did against Professor Dave. But one of his first lectures, he was just talking about how it would literally have to be raining the various molecules that were required for life to even have a sliver of a chance for it to even potentially turn into, for the abiogenesis moment to occur. And I just thought that I laughed when I heard that. I was like, that's amazing to think about, like just how crazy the odds are. He's like, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, he just said that there's not even enough atoms in the universe that we are aware of to even potentially have that kind of the actual potential for that to occur. So it's pretty crazy.
And maybe that's an important point. We can actually calculate. I told Dr. Dan, and I agreed. I said, there are a few gaps in our ability to calculate specifically the odds of the transitions I was pointing out in the eukaryote. We have very clear statistics in abiogenesis, and that's why I would lean toward the supernatural, because it's so obvious at the abiogenesis level. And before I introduce Andrew Kaufman, I'm going to just mention a couple other things to Emery since he was working on a paper. Dr. Dan said he thought I was very honest, and he appreciated my answers. They were direct, and he considered it very honest. And so did David Neff say that too. I really appreciate that, because there's one channel that has maybe 3 times a week or every other day they'll talk about Sal Cordova, something he said. And the headlines are Sal sucks, or Sal sucked again, slimy Sal, liar, and like all the sad chat is just filling it. So I appreciated that. And he said, the reason you're held in high esteem, Sal, by the opposite side of the community is, he said, you're very precise and very detailed. Because And it's like, well, it's not because I was inherently a creationist. This was part of my job. We're trying to do medical. It just so happened that I was studying the topoisomerase enzyme, so I'm familiar with it. But I really did appreciate that. He's been someone who has advocated for my reputation in the evolutionary community, and for that I'm very grateful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Praise the Lord.
Yeah. So Andrew, welcome, sir. Greetings.
Hello, Sal. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going, Andrew?
It's going well.
And here's the
It's good-
man who made the best comment in my stream on Cures for Doubting Thomas. He said something about how many a man has
oh yeah,
almost died to impress a girl.
Almost died for a woman.
Yes.
I remember reading that. I was
I've
really
done.
hard of that.
Yeah, I've done some pretty stupid things. Yeah, so I could relate. But yeah, just thanks for having me on, Sal. It's good to see everybody here. I had a quick, comment, I guess, about, you guys touched on this earlier about, I don't explicitly or I don't believe that there is conspiracy involved, but it's just, if you watch that movie, Sal knows about it. I'm sure most of you do. Expelled, the ID people. It leaves you with the impression that there is, something going on, where maybe it's not suppressed, but it's frowned upon. ID and creation in the science fields.
Yes, I'd say prejudice, general prejudice. Oh, go on.
Okay, it doesn't even have to be a conspiracy. All it has to happen is there be a small, extremely vocal, extremely aggressive minority of people who get very, 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 very angry the moment the word intelligence or design is used in a paper. A group of Chinese researchers found that out the hard way when they wrote a paper on the design of the human hand that was published in PLOS 1. And let's just put it this way: the editor of the they called for the editor of the journal's head. They called for the editor of the journal to lose his job at his actual job, not just editing the journal.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, he's just laughing at the joke that won't count. I mean, it seems like
Okay, we were talking about how many men have almost died trying to impress a woman.
Like, how am I supposed to follow that?
Well, I mean, that's pretty funny. But
anyway, going on, I was trying to get all it takes is a vocal minority in the right places that's really aggressive, and the rest of everybody else being afraid of them. Like,
right.
That's all it takes.
It's a lot like the feminist movement, with liberals. I mean, I'm not saying that every liberal out there is like a psycho or anything like that, but I don't agree with a lot of what they believe as far as like morality and, it's obviously abortion is a huge issue for me now.
Right.
And I feel like, the whole feminist movement is actually just a satanic cult that they don't want to admit it. So, anyways.
Yeah, I've heard that.
All I can say is I'm glad I didn't get to say that, so I don't get spammed. Not that I don't agree with you, but
right. No worries.
Spammed for that.
I get in all kinds of conversations online, especially with people in that camp.
Yeah, but again, Andrew, to directly answer your question, it doesn't have to be a conspiracy. All it takes is a vocal anti-theist minority that are aggressive enough and intimidating enough to make it sound like they are the majority, and people back down, because most people naturally don't want a conflict. And we're seeing this happen right now with critical race theory, intersectionality, and social justice. The people who are pushing for that represent a minority, a sizable one, but a minority of American society. Most Americans don't want to fight it because that's potentially costly. And so,
because it would make them appear as racist and whatever other nonsense they want to label people as. I mean, I was just going to say, I remember Dr. James Torrey. I mean, I don't want to put words into his mouth or anything like that, but I recall him saying that he at one point was subjugated from a couple of societies, scientific communities, because of the fact that he was at least pushing against abiogenesis. And I think it was that he had signed a paper about being skeptical of evolutionary theory, at least, reviewing the evidence thoroughly before you actually accept the theory. And so that's one of the things that they were coming against him. He said that if it weren't for his tenure, he would have lost his job, essentially, is what I understand. But I mean, you can go back to his. What's that?
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, because I mean,
like-
I remember this is from like a couple of years ago. I think like 3 years ago when I watched that video. So, but I could probably try to find the link and send it to you guys.
Yeah, and Dr. Tor is a synthetic chemist, right? He's not
Yeah.
even a biologist. His field really doesn't have to do with this, and they're still threatening him over it.
They're threatening
Yeah.
him because he dares to open his mouth. Essentially,
Right.
yeah.
And
Well, I mean, the
one of
thing
my-
is. Well, so go ahead.
I was about to say one of my friends at the Jet Propulsion Lab, he was a computer configuration management guy. They got him, and it was for stuff that he's publishing on his private blog or website, Creation Evolution Headlines.
Catch pull.
Yeah, that's David Coppage. That was it was a publicly covered trial too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they said, "Oh, we didn't fire him. It was just a reduction in force. Had nothing to do with, you know." And so they scrubbed all the records that made any reference that it was done because of his intelligent design views. And that's what'll happen when they fire people. That's what happened with Carolyn Crocker. They gave her perfect reviews and said it was just a reduction in force. They'll never say it was because of the real reason. They'll never put that in the documentation.
Right, because if they put that in the documentation, they might lose in court.
Yeah, so it might not be a widespread conspiracy, but there's those few people who have the power to make
But
things
that
go
a
wrong.
situation like that isn't so much a conspiracy as it's about institutional protection. Like it's basically just we want to get this person off our institutional roles, and we're going to do it in the way that protects the institution while we're doing it.
There was actually a German scientist. I cannot remember what his actual field was. I want to say it was paleontology. But,
That'd be
he-
Gunter Beckley.
Yeah, you
Gunter
have-
Exactly. That's right. I was about to name it. Yeah. He was actually fired from his position as well, just for even mentioning that Dr. Behe's work on.
And we lost Matt again.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
You're sort of back now.
reconnected.
You might be better turning your camera off because you're kind of going in and out sometimes. It might
Sure.
take a little
Yeah,
less
no
bandwidth on your end. See if
Can you
that
hear me
helps. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yep.
Okay, yeah, it probably was the camera. Sorry about that.
Oh,
But yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, he was literally fired just for saying that the theory of irreducible complexity by by Dr. Behe was a potentially true theory, and I thought that was insane. I'm like, what in the world? Like, just because he said that it's possible, he lost his job.
Mm.
What goes through these people's minds? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah, it. I don't understand either. And I'm at the point I'm not going to try to. There's God knows what the answer is, and I'm trying to just encourage people, and I'm glad to see it with a lot of the individuals here. These are interesting questions, but all that we can really do is just focus and learn on biology. It's so hard to change the culture. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, I was thinking, oh, let's just have these public debates and everyone will see and, be happy and they'll come to their senses. And it didn't turn out that way. And the culture went down. And I don't know. It's despairing. Before I forget, Emery, I wanted to tell you something about all that's happening in the seminaries, verse in the churches, and then we can get back to any other topic you wanted to talk about. I just didn't want to forget this.
Sure.
And it does relate to the cultural meltdown. The Apostle Paul is planting all these churches, and he said, I prayed for you all day and night with tears because I know wolves are going to be coming among you and not going to spare the flock. And it always struck me, it's like, so God, you're going to plant all these churches and you're going to let these wolves in. And it said in Deuteronomy 13 that it was a similar thing, that God will let these false prophets come in, and he gave the reason. He said, "The Lord God is testing you to see whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul." And so what we're seeing happening now with the bad seminaries getting even worse, and then sadly the good seminaries going bad, it parallels what happened in the New Testament. The encouraging thing is it didn't stop the spread of Christianity. It didn't stop Christianity moving forward. Even when the wolves came, they couldn't stop. And I just wanted to offer that as we're thinking about all these bad things happening. We've had God prophesying about it, and we don't, a little word of encouragement. I was just thinking about that.
Yes and no, Sal. Like, I mean, yes, Christianity continued to spread, but at the same time, if we look at like a lot of the early churches were in Asia Minor and in Greece, and biblical Christianity is essentially extinct in both of those places today. You have a few, but there's not very many. And then, then the churches moved to Western Europe, and now Western Europe is basically, there are no churches left in Western Europe now, or very few. So yes, Christianity continues to march on, but it seems to change locations over time and not recover in places where it has been extirpated. That's not positive news for where we live. It might be positive news for, say, South America, where they've never really had a biblical gospel, or maybe Africa, where a lot of places have not really had a biblical gospel, or maybe Southeast Asia, but it's not positive news for where we are.
Agreed. And there is the prophecy. Jesus said, when the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on earth? But I guess maybe the bottom line is that this isn't surprising God at all. No. Not one iota. And he has his reasons for it. It's kind of hard on us who are part of the church. And the question did come up, what happens if you can't find a good church? And I can imagine there are places in the country where it's so bad you can't, it's very hard. Maybe New England church is run by Tim Keller. I'm sorry. I'd say in that situation, just find another believer that's like-minded, and just pray in fellowship. That's maybe just a Band-Aid until you do find a better situation. That's about all I could say at this point, because I'm in that situation right now.
Yeah.
You like my Tim Keller joke?
Well, it's an inside joke between you and me, because we both know what you're talking about. I'm not sure everybody else here does, but we do.
I'll need to watch your video.
I don't know his profession. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, no, I don't want to spend too much time there, because that's a whole several hours worth of material in and of itself right there. But like, the church in America is not in a good place, and it's likely not to get better. But it's likely to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, it's a lot like the Church of Laodicea in the Book of Revelation.
Yeah, I mean, so the college I went to, one of the people who regularly spoke in chapel, because I went to a Christian college, was, we called him a revelation addict, because that's about all he talked about was end times. He talked about Laodicea and how bad it was, and at the time, being a naive 18, 19, 20-year-old, I was thinking, I know it's bad, but is it really that bad? And now I'm like, yeah, maybe he knew what he was talking about.
Well, I mean, so you guys have seen that he's supposed to be a gay Christian pastor. He has a TikTok, I guess, channel that he runs, and he puts out a lot of, well, I should say it's just nonsense, honestly. He tries to make it seem like Jesus was not, against homosexuals and.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I just remember that it was on TikTok quite a bit, and is this the guy that Winger responded to? Yeah, that's the same one. Yeah,
exactly. I'm trying to remember. I want to say Brandon Robertson.
Yeah, I think that is his name. Yeah, Brandon Robertson. It sounds right. I think Robertson for sure is definitely his last name. But I can't tell for sure what his first name was. But I just remember what he said, that Jesus was a racist, and I was just thinking to myself, "Are you out of your mind? And you're supposed to be a pastor."
Mhm.
Like, just think about. He said that Jesus used a racial slur against
I remember that. Yep.
a woman that was actually a Gentile that came to that Pharisee's house and pleaded with him to heal her daughter. And I mean, clearly she knew who he was and what he could do. Like, she came humbly and asked for help, right? And he completely misconstrued the entire passage and then made it seem like Jesus was a bigot to her, and then she just accepted whatever he said to her. But that's not what was happening. He was trying to show the people that were living there at the residence that she had more faith than anyone there. So, and that's the way he wanted people to be. You know, he wanted people to come humbly and to understand that he is their only salvation. He's the only one that can help.
Yep. Yeah, and
Yeah, I thought that Mike Winger did a really good job disputing that video. He's pretty good at all keeping up with the new movements and the little cult groups, and Mike Winger is pretty good.
Yeah, I liked his video on the Mother God cult because they actually came to my house one time, and his video helped me a lot to understand what they believed and where they were getting their nonsense from.
yeah,
And I actually tried to convert them, get them to understand that it was wrong, but they just walked away. And I was like, oh well,
yeah.
At least I had a chance.
Yeah, I had a run-in with those guys. I was just out of college, and I was teaching in a Christian school in Maryland. And I stopped after on my way home from work. I stopped at Walmart, and I was just picking up. I wasn't even in there very long, but I ran into those two of them, and they were trying to convince me God the Mother, and I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, where's that in the Bible?
Exactly.
But it was an interesting 15-20 minute conversation that I had with them standing, and at that point I had no clue who these people were. And now that I've watched some of the Winger videos, I'm like, oh my goodness, what was I dealing with?
Well, the funny thing about it is that if you ask them where is that in the Bible, they'll actually say it's all over the place. You just have to look carefully, right? And then they'll say they'll actually use that passage at the beginning in Genesis where it says, "Let us make man in our image," as a quote reference that God is both male and female, but he can basically be androgynous. And I was like, what? What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so that was
even okay. First of all, he doesn't need genitalia. He doesn't need it. Like, he made genitalia. So what in the world makes you think that he's going to be a woman? First of all, why is that ever even a requirement? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. Yeah.
Yeah. They tried their whole, well, if there's a father, there must be a mother. And I'm sitting here thinking, as a scientist, wait a minute, no, that's not even. You're getting into asexual reproduction here. Your logical argument doesn't work with me. Like, I understand enough about how biology works to know that that's not always a requirement.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. I just thought it was funny with that particular group, and then of course, I actually, so my wife, she works at a hotel, and there was a guy that she worked with. Her friend's father was a Jehovah's Witness for 4 generations, and his name is Derek Barefoot. He actually wrote a book about his deconversion from Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's called the Darkest Hour, I believe. Let me go. I think I have the book over here, so I can find it real quick. But I read it; it was really good, very telling about the lifestyle that they had to the different things that they had to do. And sorry, it's over here somewhere. Right here. The Hour of Darkness. Yeah. Well, I think it's Jehovah's Witnesses and the Hour of Darkness is the actual full title. But yeah, it's got like an hourglass on the front of it and like some fire in the background. It's really interesting because what he did is he was cataloging for about 7 years because their publication, The Watchtower, what they do is they take little snippets of the Bible and they will put those little snippets into their magazine. and they call it the Watchtower publication. And they have an organization there that it's basically run kind of like the military in a sense, because they have a hierarchy, the way it's all assigned.
Mhm.
And they all have different jobs and positions they have to do. Of course, they have like certain levels of mission work they have to do, just like similar to like what Mormons do. But the real interesting thing is that they basically dedicate their entire lives just to this community, right? So if they get what they call disfellowshipped, you can literally lose everything. Not even kidding. It's like 100%. You won't have a family. They're gonna stop talking to you. You won't have any friends. You're gonna be probably kicked out of your house because they're probably all living with you. That kind of situation. So
It's equivalent to a Muslim coming to Christ in a closed country.
exactly. That's right. Exactly. It's very similar to that. And but the really interesting thing though is he was looking at the artwork in these publications, and he saw demonic imagery and all kinds of like occultic symbolism, and he's like, wait a second, this is satanic. Why is it in our books? And so he started to like really take notice of this, and he tried to bring it up to the elders in his in his particular community. Yeah, it did not go well. So they, instead of even acknowledging that these were there, they immediately brought him to what they call, it's similar to like a judicial review for like a military member. So like a court martial basically, or a captain's mess if you've ever heard of that before.
Yeah.
So yeah, they bring him before this group of like a little council, and they review his documentation, and then they say, hey, this is your charge. Here's the potential consequences if you're found guilty of this. And he's like, look, I'm just doing what I think is right. I don't think there's anything wrong with me looking at the publications and seeing what I'm seeing, and I don't see how you can't see it. And he actually showed that he had like a binder thick worth of paperwork that showed like photographic imagery that was showing exactly what he's talking about. He's like circling every little image, pointing it out, showing what he's seeing exactly. And he puts it in his book, by the way. There's like a good section of it, about maybe a couple millimeters thick, worth of just the pictures alone. So that was really cool that he actually cataloged all that stuff. But he's actually got his own channel on YouTube too right now. It's called Typologetics. And he just does a very thorough review of the Gospels and the Bible in general, and just how intricately woven they are with such a cohesive storyline. So he really likes the way that the Bible has been written, just in general.
Can you type that in the chat? Do you have mod privileges?
Yeah.
You can link to his channel.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hang on a second here.
All right.
Yeah. I hear this.
Yeah, he's a really awesome guy.
I hear a lot of that same kind of controlling mentality out of World Mission Society, Church of God, and Mormonism, and some other stuff. Yeah. Like, I hear a lot of that's pretty common in a lot of cults, where they're really, really controlling, really, really controlling.
Actually, I appreciate hearing that, because as I mentioned, I'm doing a book project on Cures for Doubting Thomas and about real faith, and the methods in the cults are a way that a faith is instilled. So thank you. And Alyosha, let me just also say, I'm gonna.
Yeah, for anyone that wants to check out his channel, it's right there. He only has like 28 subscribers, but he makes videos just doing like reviews of resurrection evidence and different various details regarding, of course, the historicity of the Bible. It's pretty great channel, actually. But he is a little bit bland if you're not like really willing to sit down and listen to him. Him and his wife will sit there and read together, and they're really, really cute couple. So if y'all get the chance to check him out, that'd be great.
Thank you for mentioning that. And by the way, the more that I encounter you, Pigs Can Fly, I could see the Lord's really done great things in your life.
Yeah, glory to God.
Your
I mean, all I can
story.
say is he's definitely changed my life. That's for sure.
Yeah, praise God, gentlemen. I think I'm running out of gas. It's actually been a very long day, and since logical, plausible, probable hasn't, did I get that right? Since he's not here, I'm not going to be able to take the break that I was hoping. So we might just have to go. I hate having to close the stream after we're having fun, but maybe it's good that we end on a happy note. And we have hung out. This has been a very active week on this channel for the shows, and I think I've gotten a lot more participation than I have in any other week for some of the specialized shows that I had. So maybe we could just, I'm going to go counterclockwise, starting with Andrew. If you had any closing thoughts, and I'm sorry, guys, I have to shut the stream down because I need to attend to my mother. And I barely have enough gas to take care of in the tank to take care of her. So Andrew, man, it's great to see you.
I understand completely. Yeah, I understand completely, Sal. I've been through your situation, and just tell your mother that me and my family's been praying for her, and we keep you. We keep you guys in our prayers. And I just say again, I really appreciate your channel, Sal, and I always love to hear what you have to say. And Emery, every time he's on here, I love it. And I wanted to say, I hope you keep up the conversations with Sandy, because he is like an encyclopedia for apologetics. It's amazing for me to learn. But thank you for having me on, and it's good to see all you guys in the chat.
Thanks.
And thank you, Andrew. Godzilla Freak, man, we don't have you on the channel very often, but thanks for dropping in.
Yeah, I just want to say today was pretty great with this show and the previous one. And let's make next week a strong week as well.
It sounds great. Emery, thanks for being such a faithful participant, and we're going to miss you during your exam week.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about that. Well, it's about a week and a half, I think, is what I got. So we'll see. Lord willing, I will be able to keep my head above water until then. Although I will say that the vast majority of my major projects will be completely submitted by the end of next week. So,
wow.
Fingers crossed, Lord willing.
Well, by the way, that's you're setting an example for all the students here, myself included. You're always so on top of things. Let me brag on you a little bit. Emery, this guy, he records the show maybe a day in advance, if not a week in advance. And this guy's just so methodical. And I just like, if I could be that ahead on everything I want to do, I'd be in good shape. So I just wanted to say thanks for setting a good example for all of us.
So I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Sal. The reason that video goes up on Sunday regularly the way it does is because it's actually recorded on Friday. I recorded that tonight. And it doesn't go up until Sunday. But the reason it goes up on Friday is because it goes up as audio on Friday. That's why it's always on ready to go on Sunday, is because I'm already recorded it a couple days in advance. So that's why the Sunday video is a regular thing.
Way to do it.
But yeah, but I do try to. I have a pretty solid routine that I fall into, and I try and make sure that I hit all my marks. It's a little harder with grad school because I used to be like, with my blog, I used to be a month ahead. Like I publish 3 times a week, and I used to be a month ahead. I am now less than a week ahead. So, but hopefully I'll be able to get back to being a month ahead once grad, or at least a couple weeks ahead once my break hits, and I'll have some extra time to write. So,
and Pigs Can Fly. Do you have your closing thoughts, and I'll give you the last word.
All right. Well, Sal, I mean, I always enjoy having the opportunity to come on here and talk to you. It's been a really real pleasure, even just getting to know you and talk to you about these different subjects. And I really hope that the Lord blesses you and your mother. I know you've been going through a lot with her, and I hope that she can make a recovery there. But I know that she's also probably coming to that point where the Lord might take her at any moment. I'm not sure what's going on there, but either way, I hope that He can console you, be your comforter, and bless you both there, okay?
Thank you for the thoughts. And these thoughts are extended to all the viewers here. May the Lord bless you all. And I'd like to thank all the panel members tonight and all the viewers that have participated both in this show and the show earlier and all the shows throughout this week. Take care and God bless you. And Lord willing, we'll see many of you hopefully on Tuesday. There might be a show in between. Haven't decided because I'm not as organized as Emery. I tend to be more spontaneous and impromptu. But thank you all and God bless you. Have a very good night.
A great night,
Take
everybody.
care.
Yeah, good night.
God bless you.